Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's Az.
My name's Luke.
My name's David.
Excellent. Welcome everyone. Now I'm going to say, when we go looking at our teams for game week 13, it's going to be a pretty sad affair. We're racing, competing against each other to have the worst team, and I'll reveal now I'm the worst out of us. But I think I'm safe to say I think we're all losers, and I hope you don't mind me saying that. But David, what else is coming up on the show apart from us crying into our game week 13 squad sheets?
Yes, yeah, no, it's it does feel like the morning after. We'll feel a bit hungover from what was a terrible game week where we all made mistakes, and we'd rather not think about it ever again. But we have to, because that's what the Scoutcast is all about. But there is plenty to look forward to as well. So, I mean, the great thing is there's loads of matches to come along. So, a lot of people in football tend to use the cliche of, we've lost the game, but it's fine. There's another game week, just come around the corner. It's an opportunity to make up for some problems. So, actually, we're going to be talking about 2 game weeks this week, because game week 15 is just a few days after game week 14, and it takes place when we'd normally be Scoutcasting, which is quite rude. We should probably have a word with the Premier League about that. But yeah, we're going to combine those 2 this week, and specifically we're going to be looking at Manchester City midfielders, who I think we've all overlooked thus far. There are 1 or 2 of us have had Sterling, so I've overlooked them, put it that way. Obviously, we've got the fixture swing coming up for Spurs, so we're going to have a look at how we can maybe best look at getting some of their players in. And our talking point this week, we're going to go and have a look at some stuff that we had some stuff on the website and an article about team frailties, specific team weaknesses. Going to kind of review some of the people that we pulled out there, see how they got on. One in particular individual did very well for one of us on the advice of someone else, but we'll get to that. And we're going to sort of talk about whether or not that sort of maybe helps us pick our cheaper players in the next couple of weeks. And of course, yes, we are going to have to look back at game week 13. We do get to look forward to game week 14 and 15. We're going to pick differentials and clean sheets for both game weeks in this episode.
Okay, well let's crack on. Let's see if we can get this done quickly then. Game week 13. So we look at Luke. Luke, you came top with 37 points.
The dizzy heights of 37.
So what moves did you make? And how are you feeling after this amazing score?
Yeah. Well, listen to the master, guys, because one day you can get 37. It was it was diabolical, right? I mean, 2 weeks away from Premier League, and we come back to that. It's always like that. It always happens, doesn't it? That's why we love it. We love the tough love. We need to get straight back into it, and luckily we've got the perfect platform to do that. What went right? So Sterling went right. Everything else went bad is basically the summary. I was going to captain Sterling. I said so on the last podcast. Joe's got into my head. I ended up captaining Richarlison. I honestly just thought Richarlison would score more points. I did do the comparison tool on them, and Richarlison was slightly ahead on home games compared to Sterling away. I don't usually do that, but I did this time. So stats failed me. I should have just gone with Sterling, but there we go. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Robertson with 7 was the only other player on my team to score any points.
Yeah.
I took a hit to get John Stones, which obviously he didn't play. But I knew that was always a possibility, with the international and Otamendi being back fit and not going away. We've seen Pep do it with Sterling before when he went on international. I think luckily this time Sterling was safe because Mahrez also went, because otherwise he would have been a candidate. But yeah, not too worried about the Stones thing moving forward. It was just more annoying the fact that everyone else was weighing up an Everton defender or Laporte, and they both went on to keep clean sheets, whereas obviously Stones didn't. So yeah, just orchestrator of a bad game week. I mean, for me, if I'd have captain Sterling and gone with one of the other defenders, I could have been sitting there with a nice score. But that's my poor management again. I've got all the tools, I just keep messing it up.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I look at that, and I mean, you've got Sterling, and we said before we went on air that is better than not having Sterling, even if you don't captain him. So that's 16 points up there immediately, and he's very low owned still. For considering that he's the highest scoring player in the game. And you got Wan-Bissaka on the bench. I know, like myself, I've got Palace assets as well, and I wouldn't have played them, but they're there. They can get. We now know they can get clean sheets in those types of games.
Well, exactly, and also I think in an ordinary game week, I would, going back to the Stones thing, I would have had Wan-Bissaka come in for 6 points. It's just it was the one time I benched a forward in Arnautovic, which I'm never going to do in any other game week, I don't think. No. Which resulted in him coming off the bench instead for Stones. Otherwise, I'd be sitting there with the lucky Wan-Bissaka 6. But yeah, moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, we had the other issue as well with Wolves as well. It's just when you wanted Wolves to, get some good points, that didn't happen as well. And of course, Fabianski gets a 0 there. I mean, he could have made all sorts of saves, but more saves you make, the more you concede. It seems to be against Man City. There's too many of them. So as you're second with 36 points. Is your team
1 point less than Luke.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. First of all, I think you should mention Brooks there. Now, what made you decide?
I was going to mention Brooks without David's little giving it all this at the start, and yeah. I mean, fair point. I mean, we're going to talk about David's magic formula for picking players a bit later on, but it came off, and actually Brooks was pretty unlucky not to get more because he had that goal ruled off for offside. Which it was either really close or I think he was onside. So actually, I feel a bit aggrieved. But an assist at Arsenal is always nice, and that's kind of why I bought him, to give myself the kind of selection to do that. But yeah, I have to admit, I wasn't going to bench Arnautovic until the Breakfast Club. So yeah, I was quite happy with that. But yeah, I mean, I bought in Luca Dean, which was good. Bought in Martial, which was rubbish, and now I immediately want to get rid of him. But I'm kind of stuck with him for the next few games because they're quite decent for him, I think. So he's going to have to stay. Richarlison captain, same as Luke, rubbish. I'm just really annoyed that I didn't move for Sterling, and it was that Mendy injury over the international break which really made me not do that. And I was actually hoping if Doherty had been out, then I had a kind of really elaborate hit planned to kind of get a strong team. And then Doherty was fit, Mendy was out, and in the end I kind of played it safe with the -4. And yeah, I could have got rid of Salah for Sterling and sort of strengthened the rest of my team, and it would have worked out quite nicely. Might even have given Sterling the armband, but woulda coulda, as Luke said. Just rubbish, just another rubbish week, and I'm getting sick of them now. I finally made some progress before the international break, and now I'm just back down to sub 200k again. So yeah, I'm frustrated.
Well, I mean, the scale of frustration continues. David, you're next to be frustrated. 35 points, so just behind Az there. What did you do? You took an 8-point hit. For this.
I did. Yeah.
This shower.
I think that my worst performer this week was me. Because it's the -8. I mean, in my head it made so much sense. It was I was kind of inspired by Mark because he'd obviously taken a few -8s that had gone really. This is the way I should have looked at it. They went spectacularly bad, and then the next week it was like 100 points, and I was thinking, oh yeah, -8, I'll be quids in, and yeah, I mean the international break was kind of what triggered it because I was it was the Mendy injury and that really kind of threw me because I didn't want to leave him just kind of. I didn't really want to bench him, and when I just decided there was a few things I wanted to change. So, I mean, if Az is going to give me credit for what I did for his team, I have to give him credit for what he said before I signed Shaqiri, which was you're just going to have a situation the next game week where you're like, kind of regret, that one night stand, and I really wish I could take it back, etc. Which is exactly how I felt because had I just left it, I'd have been 8 points. Oh, I mean, I would have been I kind of look at it like the 8 points from Shaqiri from the previous week pay for this hit. But you can look at it whatever way you want. I mean, basically, if I'd have done nothing, I'd have had 2 free transfers. It only would have been a -4 to do the moves I probably would have done anyway, which was, so I got Digne in as my replacement for Mendy. And because everybody was kind of, I feel a bit silly for getting Richarlison in for Shaqiri because it was mainly triggered by how many people wanted to captain him. And I held off when that was the case for Kane. And maybe I should have done that for this because I wasn't hugely impressed with his underlying statistics. It's just a case of I know he's explosive, and it's Cardiff. So, maybe I should have, trusted the numbers a bit more there. And then, I got rid of Success because I kind of felt like I wanted Jimenez back. So, again, I'm actually slightly inspired by Mark here again because he did a few transfers a couple of weeks ago, which, he could have looked at in the light of, I'm kind of going back on what I'd already done. But, if you've sold a player but actually want him back, sometimes you just got to be bold enough to say I got it wrong and I need him back and bite the bullet. And so I got Jimenez back in for this really nice fixture against Huddersfield, which I was thinking, my Wolves triple up's going to absolutely smash this. And of course the unthinkable happened and Huddersfield won 2-0 and just Wolves are rubbish, so I mean really the only thing that went right was the captaincy, which has kind of been the only thing that's gone right the last couple of weeks really because I still haven't blanked yet on a captain, which is nice. So that's a real nice positive to take. And it's got to the point now where they have this article was written by one of our community guys who every week he just says, David captain this guy, somehow they delivered again. So the world is waiting to hear I'm going to captain next week. So got a captive audience now. I don't.
No pressure.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. I don't think I
know.
like the pressure.
You mentioned on our captain video, and we got some nice comments. We recorded our captain video today, and that's also up on YouTube. Do have a look at it. And a couple of nice comments on there. One in particular saying, thanks for advice. He's also had a captaincy success every week because of this. So obviously we're giving the right advice. I'm almost following that advice. So moving on to my team, this was the second week in this season where I didn't get the captaincy right. I got Aguero. I kind of thought I got it right in terms of I thought Man City would get more goals and be more attacking against West Ham than Liverpool were against Watford. I think it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. I was just flabbergasted at how lack of involvement Aguero had in it all. And we're going to be talking about Man City mids a bit later. But it was a real test, really, for the Aguero away strategy. So, I mean, I got 31 points, 35 with a hit. And I could have done with that Salah points because I was hovering between Salah and Aguero all week for the captaincy, and I could have done with those extra points. I think now I'm resigned to Aguero not being very good away in the Premier League, although I believe he's done quite well. He may well have scored in the Champions League while we've been on
He has just scored.
There we go.
In typical FBL fashion.
So there's still something. I was looking, basically all the evidence we had really was the Cardiff game against a kind of a weaker side away, and he got points that game. And I thought West Ham's that choice. And West Ham opened up for City, and Aguero just nowhere there. So I think it's made my decision easier about what to do with Aguero in a week or two. But elsewhere, got Dean in for Mendy, very happy with that, and I got Jimenez in for Ings. Ings didn't play, so I'm actually up on the deal by 1 point. I've got a net 1 point gain, so I'm pleased about that, and I've got two players I'm happier with than two players that are injured, and I'm definitely not happy with a Southampton player at the moment. I was really hoping Burnley, Goodmanson and Harwood would dig me out of a hole, and Goodmanson decided to recover from his injury but then get some kind of stomach bug or cold or something, so that was very annoying. And Hart just did what Burnley did, really, and as soon as I knew they conceded, that was the end of it, really. Just turned it off. Because I knew Newcastle wouldn't have that many shots, so I thought he'd be lucky to get 3 saves tops. I thought it's not going to be one of those 6-7 save games for him. But yeah,
ended up with 2 Burnley players, Joe.
What? I don't know. I think I still think. The thing was, Goodmanson didn't play because he was ill, and if he'd have played, who knows? But yeah, the fixture's turning for Palace soon, thank God. Hennessy's my man, and there you can see him on my bench, like warming it up, telling me what I'm missing. I wouldn't have played him against Manchester United, so I don't mind that. Same with Wan-Bissaka. But I'm looking forward to playing one or both of those for over Christmas now. So, and also we were talking earlier before my spin doctoring was being mocked by Luke because I noticed that more than half of the moderators and contributors in the Fantasy Football Scouts League got under 40 points. So it was a good week to have a bad week. So that's my absolutely desperate spin doctoring over what was my worst week of the season and a truly abysmal week. I think I can safely say for all of us. Have you got any rough with the smooths for us to make us feel better or worse?
Of course. So I'll start with the roughs. There's a good comment in the chat just before we started, which was from Lackland Camilleri, who just said, "Hello everyone, can we just skip the review of Game Week 13? What a horror show." And so it proved for not just us, but people across the board and on the site. So just a couple of roughs here, which I quite liked, some of the worst ones. So Slarty Bartfast, excellent name. He did a smooth. He brought in Alexander Arnold for Lovren. Excellent move.
Good timing.
I benched him.
He benched him?
No. Benched him. Double Wolves defence. So yeah.
Alexander Arnold is good, but he's not going to be scoring them every week.
No.
He could have missed. That could be his one of the season.
I know. And Andy benched him as well, which I was surprised at. Yeah. Too, so yeah, that hurts. And the second one, Verbino, who we do the Scout Picks challenge where a member of the community pits off against the kind of squad selection, and he absolutely thrashed us in his picks. But in his own team, he had a bit of a nightmare. He took out Mane and Vardy, who both, well, I think Mane got 2 assists and Vardy scored.
Yeah, so
And he brought in Aguero and Martial, who both blanked for a hit. So loses out on about 20 points there. Said he would have captained Salah if he hadn't brought in Aguero, so another 8 points there. So he's looking at like between 20 and 30 points lost on just that hit alone, this move. And the rest of his players didn't do much. 0-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2. So yeah, pretty rubbish. Had finished on 28 points. Yeah, not good.
The scout picks have been against his real team rather than his community challenge.
Nice, would have been nice. So Smooth Wasp 3000. He says, if this doesn't get a mention on the Scoutcast, I don't know what will. And I think that's fair enough. And Joe, I always think of you when these kind of ones come in, because it's the jammy bench.
Oh,
jammy bencher.
I'm not known for my jammy benching. It's more Mark.
You're not, but you like these ones.
I do like them though. I really enjoy them.
Well, he got Trent Alexander-Arnold off his bench for your man Goodmanson.
Really?
Yeah. So can you imagine that Monday night? You just sit there just thinking, I hope he doesn't play, and then he's not even in the squad.
Is this Wasp 3000? Is this?
This is Wasp 3000. So he's now up to 6K.
Wasp 3000. I'd be dining out on that for at least the next 2 years. Yeah, do it.
And the next one I love. I think this is absolutely brilliant. So Rhinos, who is a member of American Daicho, who, if anyone on FFScoutcast listening, it's the manager Melee starting this week. And the mods team we've actually got American Daicho in the first round of that community tournament. So he's the enemy. But I mean, if he makes moves like this, then he's going to be doing pretty well for his team. So you never believe who he's had in his team for the last few weeks.
Who?
Aaron Moy.
Aaron Moy?
Who scores 2 goals away to Wolves. He also took a 12-point hit this week. And as part of that 12-point hit, he brought in Moreno, as in Alberto Moreno, and Lacazette, who didn't play. Oh. But he also brought in Sané and Luca Dean.
What? What kind of swing is that? That's a mega swing.
So with the combination of Sané, Dean, Moy, he gets 82 points this week.
Blimey. What a week to have a great week.
Yeah, and he gives thanks to the bald Messi, who is he's one of Moy's boys, like you were last year, Joe.
Yeah, well, no, it was.
Moy way, right?
I got Moy in. This is an example of why this season is different to last season for me. Last season, everything I did seemed to work out. I got Aaron Moy in. I got him in for a really good haul, and then just ditched him again afterwards, and he never got another good score again. And this season, I'm not making those moves. I'm not. I dream of being like Wasp 3000 and the others. Any others?
That's it.
Okay, that'll do. We don't want any more, really. Make us feel worse.
Yeah, please stop.
Okay, so let's move on. Haul ourselves off away from that. Look ahead to game week 14 and beyond, and in particular, Man City and their midfielders. Their performance against West Ham really showed how much choice there is there. So many options to go for. Luke, your section here, got some questions from the community on Man City mids.
Yeah, and quite obviously, really, Sané, Sterling and Silva in particular are turning a lot of heads. So we've had a lot of questions about them. So I'm going to read a few out here from the community and then fire them off to you guys and see what your thoughts are. So question from FPL Boona and Amay both ask, they are among many who want to know what we think of Sané in general. Cop Cloppers also says, is Sané still worth it, even with the odd rotation pain? In fact, is it worth having him and Sterling? Hazard is an FPL legend. Sorry, I have to question that name right now.
Yeah.
Bottom of the cross.
An FPL troll, I think.
Yeah. Man City are a relentless juggernaut. Is it time to jump on their midfielders, including David Silva? And then M. Heaney says, why don't you ever even mention David Silva? So yeah, lots of questions there about Sané, Sterling, Silva. So if I come to you, Joe, first of all, your thoughts, who you're looking at, who do you like?
Well, I mean, in a week or two, we're probably going to have a set of answers around what is our lessons learned from this season, biggest mistakes so far, and mine will definitely be not taking a bold move to removing someone in my midfield and getting a Man City mid in to double up with Aguero, or indeed instead of Aguero. They've been absolutely relentless sorts of points, and I've missed them all. But it's never too late. I think with them, I think that's going to continue. Sterling, Silva, Sané, they're just all impressing. But that's not to say like the people we would have moved out, say Aguero or Salah, haven't been good. They have been good. Every time I've captained Aguero at home, I've got points from him. But I've been getting 6 to 8 points from him really, and I haven't been getting the kinds of scores that Sané and Sterling have been posting. The kind of 16 points, these 19 points. So looking at the points per match average over the last month, Sterling's up there 11.3. That's an average that's just incredible, really. So I thought he was overpriced at the beginning of the season. Well, he's not. Sané as well, 8.5 points a match over the last month. And Aguero 6. So 6 is fine. And if you're captaining him, you're getting kind of your points for what his value is. But it's just, you just can't match him. So yeah, I definitely want them. Over that period as well, the last month, Hazard's been averaging 2 points over the last month. That's not good. Salah 6, Kane 5. So this is proving, these are just, absolutely gold mines of points. So looking a bit detail I was looking at double-digit scores as well. And also how often they've been starting as well. So David Silva, he's got 1 double-digit. He's kind of hovering. His ceiling seems to be about 9 points. So I think he's, for his price, he's good. But he's not wowing me in the same way that Sterling and Sané are. But he hasn't started twice. Sané 2 double-digit returns, and he hasn't started 7 times. So I'm wondering what's going to be happening there. Sterling 4 double-digit returns, and he didn't start twice. Aguero 2 double-digit returns, and he started every match. So yeah, I mean, do I want him to start every match? I wish he hadn't in a way. I might have got rid of him and gone for Sterling. And Hazard 3 double-digit returns, and he's reliable as well. The only time he hasn't really started is through injury or just fatigue after the World Cup. And Salah as well, and Kane, just 1 double-digit haul each, but they're also very reliable starters. So it's a real question of, do you go for the reliability of these players that are going to get you 6 to 8 points, or the fear that they're not going to play and get the likes of Sterling and Sané in, and they're going to ease out some kind of 15 to 20 point haul every now and again. So my conclusion is basically one of Sterling, Silva or Sané is going to come into my team at some point over the next week or two, and I think I'm definitely prepared to remove Aguero to get another player in, who we'll mention a bit later, and get my Man City focus into midfield. I'm even prepared to remove Salah as well to get one of them in. So yeah, that's my thoughts really.
Okay, yeah, nice. David, same question to you, as I don't think you've got any of those at the moment, have you? So which one are you eyeing up, if any?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I think to go on the question about why don't we ever mention David Silva and this idea that we've kind of a lot of people have overlooked the Man City midfielders. I mean, it does come down to the rotation, as Joe's just mentioned there. That I think a lot of people, myself included, would much rather have the security of a 6-point haul most games compared to for a guy that's always going to play. And I think the reason that I'm going off Aguero now, I think. Just because it's now become clear that he is not the same player away from home, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time for that picture to build. Because certainly, I think it was about 6 weeks ago that I think Mark, for example, and I think maybe you as well, look, getting Sterling into your team, and for all of the reasons of that we've kind of already discussed now. But most people look at that and go, well, Aguero is doing well enough, so why would I pull him out? I think that's just because the picture just hadn't quite built yet. That Aguero just can't do it away from home. And I don't know what it is, because Man City can, but he can't. So, the West Ham game was like a prime example. They just went through them, the 4-0 win. They had switched off, within half an hour because they could. But Aguero he had 1 shot. That was it. That was all he did. And that's been the story of him away from home. But the great thing about some of these players is that doesn't seem to bother them. So, Sterling has been, much better on the road than Aguero has, and has actually been better than him at home most of the time. The only time that Aguero scored more points than him at home was the Man United game. And as you pointed out, I think on the Scoutcast going into that game week, Luke, that's kind of true to form, because Sterling generally doesn't do too well in the big games. I'm not even sure if he played that one, actually. Well, yeah, perhaps not. But yeah, I mean, but just generally, he if he's going to play, he's probably going to outscore Aguero. So then that's when you're starting to think, oh, okay, well, I'm probably going to have to force a move here. I mean, interestingly enough, we'll probably talk about it later. I want to get Kane as my replacement for Aguero. So actually, who I'm going to get as a Man City midfielder is a tough one to go for. I think Sané is probably the one I'd look at actually because I get what Joe's saying about the ceiling on David Silva, and Sterling I think is perhaps a little bit out of my price range if I want to get Kane. But Sané's kind of in a nice little position where if I could maybe move Hazard into Sané, because I think in this period where Mendy's not fit, I think he's going to have a lot more game time because I think he's going to need to have it. I mean, Delph obviously came in at left back, but Delph doesn't really provide any width. He's just kind of like a steady Eddie. And to be honest, I mean, it's what we saw last season. I mean, this was the kind of spell last season I remember now where Sané was just whacking in double figure hauls like there was no tomorrow. And he seems to have, he's had the start of this season off in a way that actually everybody connected with the club and even himself seems to kind of like point out that the fact that he wasn't really involved near the beginning was actually a good thing because he's kind of learned a few things here and there. He's a bit fresher than everybody else. So yeah, I mean, he's the most likely one I'm going to get because I mean he's explosive. We think he's going to play. He's not bothered about home and away. I mean, you only look at the last 2 games that he started. It's a home game against Southampton, 14 points, and then an away game at West Ham. The fact that it's not the Etihad doesn't bother him, 19 points. So that kind of thing tells me that I think he can be the complete package.
There was just to interject about Sané and Sterling. Looking at the Champions League match tonight, which is finished while we've been on air, and Sané was substituted on 71 minutes. I'm presuming that's not through injury. We might get. So I think that does indicate that he might be a starter at the weekend.
Apparently he was poor.
Was he poor? Okay, it may indicate that...
He's saving it for the weekend, that's right.
Yeah, it may indicate that he's now going to be out of the team because we don't really know. So we can look at all these different things. So it could be that. We don't know.
No one was expecting that lineup tonight, were they? With everyone playing.
Everyone playing. But Aguero came off on the 90th minute or so. I don't know if that was just wasting time, really. So there's nothing we can put to this. Sterling played the match, Silva, Mahrez as well. I cannot predict who's going to be playing this weekend. But yeah, sorry, David, tricky. Carry on. I mean, I just wanted to check out about Sané because that may give Sané owners a grain of hope that he came off early, perhaps to protect him.
I think so.
Because he was rubbish.
I just think there's not really anyone else who can do what he does when Mendy's not fit. Yes, there's left-sided players, but I don't really think that Zinchenko or Delph are even close to what he can do. The way that they play, I mean, effectively, you're going to need a guy who's going to operate on the edge of the box. He's going to be there the whole game because that's how they play. But I don't think Delph or Zinchenko can do that. So he
plays Sterling on the left sometimes, doesn't he? When Mahrez comes in, so he'd give them the pace.
Yeah, he could do. But Sterling largely used on the right. So I feel that. Yeah, I just for this period, I just think that Sané, you've got to make the most of it because when Mendy's back, you're not going to be able to. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'll briefly give my view before I hand over to Az. I think then, honestly, if I had a wild card right now, I'd have Sané, Sterling, and Silva in it. I'd just put all 3 of them in it. 3 or 4 goals a game every time. Aguero's not taking a massive piece of the pie, but it's more about with the Aguero thing. I'm not too worried about the away thing. It's more just that with Kane's fixtures and what he's got coming up, I think he's the better option potentially. And then also Jesus is bound to get used because he's a good backup, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from there. Whereas I think the only person competing for those Sané or Sterling roles, Sané and Sterling roles is Mahrez. So I don't know. Pep's comments suggest that Sterling and Mahrez are more likely to rotate. At least that's how I read them.
Yeah,
competing with each other on the right side.
That's right.
And yeah, Sterling can play on the left, but Sané seems to be the front runner for that at the moment. And this Mendy-Sané thing's been shown in the past, to be honest with you, to be quite accurate. So yeah, I'd get them all. That's what I'd do. I'd just jump 2-footed Mark Noble into that straight away and get all 3 of them. But right now, as I already have Sterling, I'm eyeing up Sané just because the guy's explosive. Silva will forever be my favourite player in the league that I always just ignore in FPL. Really frustrating. But eventually I might get him as well. And I think just take the odd rotation on the chin. I mean, he might get 10 or 11 minutes at the end of the game, but they're likely to score in that. That's when the goals are flying in as well. So as long as you've got a decent bench, I think it's a good move. So it won't cover that too much more because we've already gone over it. But Az, have you got anything else to add to that?
I've got fairly strong views on this in that I think Sterling is going to be the top FPL points player of the season from everything I've seen so far. I don't think anyone's going to get anywhere near him. He's on track to just like smash records, I think, by the look of it. I just think you need him, and he's still only 11-12% ownership. So you're still, if you get him in now over Christmas and he plays most games, then I think it's going to be my ticket back into the top 100k, I think. So he's definitely coming in, no question about that. I should have done it over the international break. I'm going to remedy that this week somehow. Just depends who's going to go out of Hazard or Salah, or maybe both of them will go, and I'll bring in Sané and Sterling because I'm sick. I'm sick of everyone. I'm sick of my entire team. Every week I keep giving them a new chance. Every week they keep failing to deliver any points. Sick of them. Get rid of the lot. I wish I had a wild card still there. I think Silver we do overlook, and I think if you've got Silver, I think you can be really happy with that because to me, that's just one spot in your team that you just don't need to think about. You can take the odd rest for him on the chin. He's going to play most games. He's going to tick over with points. I think he's a great price for what he offers from that attacking City side. So he's someone that I really want, but I think the big points hauls are in the heavy hitters, and I want to have a complete reshuffle of my expensive 4 players who just aren't delivering. No, 3 players: Hazard, Salah, and Aguero. I'm just sick of them, all 3 of them. So I'm looking to get rid over the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
sound like Mourinho.
I'm sick. I'm just sick of them, David. I just, they're immature.
They've got poor attitude, haven't they? They're not like real men.
But yeah, I think Sterling. I can't see any. I thought at the start of the season that he was overpriced. I thought there's no way he's going to kind of kick on and do what he did because I mean last year he was second top scorer, wasn't he, in the game? And I think that he's even better this year. He's playing like a man possessed. He's so attacking. He's just relentlessly attacking. So yeah, I'm 100% getting him in this week.
When we did the article about just comparing people's best seasons to their current one, Sterling just last season was his best ever, and what we found is basically if you took his average points per game for this season, times it by 38, he was going to smash it. So yeah, the stats are already there to back that up.
Mm. Yeah, the only thing I'd say on that is obviously Mahrez was signed for big money at the beginning of the season and Sterling was at the World Cup. So I'll go back with the same information. I don't think many people would pick him game week 1. We didn't think he'd even start. No. I don't think he did start game week 1, did he? Maybe he did. I can't remember.
Involved, I think, but yeah.
Game week 2 because that's when I got him in. But the only reason I didn't go for him was because of that. But yeah, with that information, he signed Mahrez for all that money. It looked like he was the man to come in predominantly on the right side to take the place of Sterling. So I don't think people can beat themselves up too much for not going for him from the start, and I think that's reflected in the percentage of people that picked him and why his ownership is so low.
It's amazing his ownership's still so low though after a 21 and a 16 point haul.
Well, I think that's an indication of those with Aguero. And there are those with Aguero and Sterling, but I think for most people it's one or the other. And Aguero, once again, because he's had so many home games, so people have captained him so many times at home, it's almost like, yeah, that's good, mate, but it's not good enough. And now
transfers are precious.
Now people are starting to think that, as I said in my response to this, really, it's just, there's nothing Aguero's doing wrong at all. He's just not getting that same explosion of points. He's only had that one this season, but others. But yeah, a lot of the players that we mentioned kind of bringing in for some of these dud players that we've got, it's not just City we're looking at, it's Spurs as well, because they have a phenomenal run. As we've had a few questions on Spurs, not unsurprisingly, really, looking at their amazing festive fixtures.
Yeah, and it's gonna shake up the template a bit, I think now. And that Chelsea game was an interesting one because I've been calling for a while that Chelsea were going to slip up, and I've been getting some stick for it because they haven't. I just was not expecting it to come against Spurs, who just destroyed them. I mean, tactically, Sarri just got that completely wrong. So some of the questions. A pundit of punts wants to know if we should be targeting Kane or a Spurs mid like Eriksen or both, and if so, who makes way, Salah, Hazard or Aguero? KTK Ini Asta and the Rumour Mill, among others, ask how many Spurs assets we should be targeting. Kime67 says Spurs were so good on Saturday. Who should we get in? Is Son a good option? And Trashboat says Amor and Lamela no longer worth looking at. Is it all about Son, Ali, and Ericsson now? So let's go to you first, Luke. What do you reckon about Spurs?
They look fabulous, didn't they? They were amazing. First time that front four have been together all season, and look what happened straight away. I think it was even more. Well, it was surprising because it was against Chelsea, but it was also more surprising to me that a lot of the rest of their team was mainly backups. You know, like Ori at right back, and you got Sissoko in central midfield. You know, generally, I think Spurs have struggled when they haven't had Dembele in top form as well with that top four, but just blew him away. And Son was on a different planet. He was just so good. It's the most valuable asset in football, being able to carry the ball like that at pace and run at people. And Son is in that category of players who can do it. So I think he does look a great option. There's no doubt he gets rotated. Whether it's going to be any more than anyone else, I'm not so sure. It is very, very tiring, his play style. So I would suspect he will be coming off early a lot in games, running like that all the time. And Lamella's also in great form. He's been fantastic as well. So I think him and Lamella will largely share time on the right side. Son's obviously the front runner after that game, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I was always going to get Kane anyway for the fixtures. I'd predominantly play fixtures, so didn't change anything that game really. Kane will be coming in. And yeah, if I had to look at someone else right now, it probably would be Son, because I've got people like Martial and around that sort of price where a little bit of jiggling I could potentially get him. I was even looking at potentially Lamella before this game anyway. So not to say that Ali and Ericsson won't be great as well. I'm sure they will. But we just got too many expensive Man City midfielders I want right now. So it's hard to look at them. That's the bottom line. I think it could have been a one-off is the other thing. We've seen one game. All the other games from Spurs haven't really showed us this. Was it that Chelsea were just really bad? Because defensively, they were all over the place. Jorginho was exposed really badly. Alonso, David Luiz just
got
had
out of
one
the way.
Yeah, he's just had one of those David Luiz moments. I mean, he's been fantastic this season. To be fair, I think Luiz most of the games he's done well in Sky, particularly with man of the matches and stuff. He's been great, but he is prone to those kind of games, and I think that was just one of his games. So Chelsea, it might have just been. These happen in football sometimes, right? Sometimes things happen like this, and who knows? It could revert to type straight away for both teams. But I'm sold purely for the fixtures.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I'm definitely looking at getting a Spurs player in for the run. I think Kane seems a really logical choice. What I like about Son though is just how advanced he plays. He seems to play so much more attacking than Kane, who still scored. But when I watched Son in that game, I was just wishing that he was just a nailed-on player, because it would be so easy to get him in for this run and not have to worry about getting in a 12.5. I mean, Kane is just such a high price that he really needs to deliver. Whereas with Son, I'd feel so comfortable with having him. I think it's 8.2, something like that. Mm-hmm. It's just such a good price if he gets starts. But yeah, he's just got the rotation looming. But yeah, I'm definitely getting Kane. The defense is a tricky one because you would really expect there to be clean sheets over that period. Not going there with a goalkeeper. Lloris, it's too much money on a goalkeeper for me. I don't like the fullback situation. You never really know who's going to play. If Trippier's back, you've got to assume he's first choice. But over Christmas, there's going to be rotation there. And then, central defence is a bit of a minefield as well. I mean, you've got Vertonghen and Sanchez, and then you've got Foyth and Alderweireld's there as well. So I don't really like any of those options. And I think in midfield as well, I think there are other priorities with the Man City midfield, and I'm quite settled with my not with Salah and Hazard, but with kind of all the ones around that. So yeah, I'm not really too short to this. I think Kane is the way to go for me. But yeah, I think there's definitely going to be points over the next few weeks. What do you reckon, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, for a start off, Kane is the one I'm looking at to replace Aguero. Aguero's performance against West Ham cemented me moving him on. The problem I had with Kane was that he wasn't putting in those underlying stats that he always does, so he wasn't being classic Kane. But that has changed now. So I think we were here last time. One of the videos we did last week, I was saying I wasn't comfortable with Kane being hovering at around the kind of mid-table, kind of sixth or seventh place in terms of kind of shots on target and shots in the box, those things. I don't want to see a player who's that expensive alongside Mitrovic and Jimenez. I want to see him competing with Salah and Aguero at the top, and he wasn't, but now he is. So looking at goal attempts in the last 4 game weeks, he's top of the pile. That's more like it. That's what I want to see. 17 shots there. Jimenez at 50. Oh, so he is near Jimenez, but Jimenez is doing well, underlying stats wise as well. But of course, Kane's got those 2 goals in the last 4, and he's had 3 big chances there. So the same as Martial. So if people think Martial is in form rather than overperforming, Kane's up there as well. And of course he's had 4 starts in the last 4 games. We know that because Kane's always nailed on. He'd had to actually have his legs surgically removed for him not to be on the pitch. I don't know what Llorente has done, but he can't get a game. So that's why Kane has got a lot going for him at the moment. And let's remind ourselves of those fixtures. Between game weeks 15 and 21, they do not have a single bad fixture. In fact, their fixtures are arguably amazing. They've got Southampton, Leicester, Burnley, Everton, Bournemouth, Wolves, Cardiff. That's your festive fixtures done. And to be honest, I think that could be your festive captain done and dusted, sorted.
And then they've got United, and then they've got another sea of green. They've got great fixtures up until.
But even United are terrible defensively. So
I think they've got and also I missed out game week 14, the Arsenal game. Kane, of course, has a great record in that. So arguably he could be bought in. I wouldn't make that move for Aguero, who's facing Bournemouth though. But nevertheless, I'm unsure of Son. I've owned Son many times, and it is frustrating. He doesn't start. When he does, he can get a good score, but he's so often for me, he's got me 1 or 2 points. That's just the way he is. That's just what his role in the team, and I think that's going to continue. So I think there'll be frustration if I got Son in. Eriksen is a player I like. We've had this before. I didn't like him quite as much as Luke assumed I liked him in terms of waking up and him making me breakfast. But I do like Eriksen. He's quite reliable. But I do, once again, I have a slight problem with him in that Trippier is out, and his great performance and his great creativity in the weekend was because Trippier wasn't there, or was it because he's just Eriksen's in great form anyway? I don't know. So there's an uncertainty there, and I'd really like to see him with Trippier back before I go Eriksen and Kane. Ali I always like. Ali's a great player because he can be frustrating in that he can get a yellow card and he can end up with 1 point. But he does get those great monster hauls, and so many times after the last 2 or 3 seasons, I've really happy memories of owning Dele Alli. I remember that great run he had, where he just kept getting double-digit returns every week. It was just going on and on. He was relentless. He's a great player.
I did him last year. It was rubbish.
Yeah, last year, and it was over Christmas. This time, I'm starting to get deja vu as well. I had Kane, and I in fact had Kane, Son, and Eriksen, because they also had great Christmas fixtures, and of course they had a double game week as well. And we know what happened there. Kane barely showed up. He had a cold, and Eriksen got me a few points, and Son really didn't show up either. So we know what's they're going to happen then. But yeah, Son's interesting. Eriksen, I want to see him with Trippier. Ali might be the one if I'll go to double. But first of all, top priority, Kane in game week 15. Set and forget captain, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's a potential to shake things up a bit for people who are struggling, because I think a lot of people won't make that jump who are doing quite well. And I mean, you just hope it's not going to go the Cardiff route, but at least he's got a few other good games to make up for it. Although he's gonna have to get some points for me to forgive him for that, because I wild carded for him. I mean, we all took hits for him and stuff, and
no, not all of us.
Well, not all of us. No, you didn't
either.
I don't forgive him for anything. Okay. Clean slate, me and Harry.
Well, just idiot me and Joe. So who hasn't? David, you haven't spoken yet, have you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to add much that's new, because I think I agree with pretty much everything everyone said. Yeah, Kane's the only one I'm going to consider, really, because the fact that I think he's back to where we want him to be now, underlying statistics wise. I mean, first 10 game weeks of the season, 2.9 shots per game. Last 3, it's 5.33. I mean, he had 8 shots against Wolves, which I feel like I didn't notice those. I watched that game and I don't remember him shooting that often, but he's racking them up now, and that's kind of what we need to see. The only other thing, really, just to kind of add to that run of fixtures, we all know it's great, but Southampton, I seem to remember a rather delightful Boxing Day last year where I got a captain hat-trick out of that against Southampton. Then 2 weeks later, it's Burnley, and as we all know, that was the famous get rid of Kane, he scores a hat-trick. That was when Kane exit started. So I mean, there's teams in this run that he absolutely loves smashing to pieces, because Leicester as well, away from home, we all remember the King Power, the day there. Arsenal, of course, obviously. I mean, yeah, this week I'm not going to go for him because I want Aguero at home to Bournemouth. But, I mean, as me and Joe were talking on the captain video, if you've got Kane already, then you really kind of got to be considering him for the captaincy there, because you've probably not got people like Aguero if you've got Kane. So he to me, and the fact that he's nailed on, that's fantastic. Eriksen and Ali are the only other two that I see as nailed on. And yeah, I've got to see Eriksen without Trippier before I think that he's going to take over in the same way that he has done historically. And Ali, I'm a bit like you, as I have more bad memories with Ali than I do nice ones. So I just can't really see why I would go for him there when the Man City midfielders are looking so nice. And the thing with Son, I mean, there's some interesting quotes from Poch after the game against Chelsea, because basically Sarri said the reason that Chelsea really struggled was because he just had no idea what to predict what Spurs' lineup was going to be. And then when I kind of looked over it over the last couple of weeks, Poch really does not have a formation that he plays every week. Like, we know with Chelsea they're always going to play 4-3-3, but with Spurs you never quite know. And they basically went for a 4-1-3-2, I think it was. And Sissoko even played on the right, which is really weird. And basically Son played as a striker, or a second striker really. He kind of drifted. Didn't really have too much of a set position, but I can think of so many different positions that Son's been asked to kind of fulfill in that Spurs team. And then Poch after the game basically said, we don't have a set formation, and we kind of tailor what we're going to set up based off who we're playing and what the situation is and what the context of the game is. And when you look at what that's done to Son's minutes in the last couple of years, it's very clear that he's the versatile player. And so then if his role's always a little bit different, it just kind of puts me off, because he's not even always going to start. So I think the quotes from Poch just massively back up this idea that Son is great and his price is great, but I think his price is in that region for a reason. It's just not nailed on at all. I'd love for him to be nailed on, but he's not. So yeah, Kane for me, easy one. He's the only one I'm looking at, and I think he's going to be my transfer for game week 15 and my captain possibly as well.
Okay, well, David, let's move on to the next subject, really. And this is something that you've been exploring for the last couple of weeks, is looking at the kind of more high-level stuff about team frailties, where specifically teams are quite weak, and some of the players that they're facing over the coming game weeks who are ready, primed to exploit them. So, yeah, take it away, David.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed looking into this, because I was hoping it would throw up some really interesting matchups, and it did. And already we've had some success. So I'm actually going to come to Az first, because obviously, he was umming and ahhing between Arnautovic and Brooks, and I just casually slipped in. Well, from the research we've been doing, it shows that Arsenal are weak down their left flank, and that's where Brooks would be playing if King comes back, and he did. And he played on the right, and he got an assist. So I mean that, and you went with it as well as. My question to you is: are you a convert? Are you going to be having a look at that sort of thing in future, as you've seen firsthand that it can make a difference?
I wasn't even umming and ahhing. I hadn't even considered Brooks until you mentioned that, and then it did get me thinking. So, I think this is one of the things that in theory should separate us out from the rest of the crowd. I mean, you've got the Twitter community and the Fantasy Scout community can feel like it's the kind of whole community, but really we're only probably, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000, I don't know, something like that. And it's these kind of things that are going to get us into the top positions. And having the stats on hand of things like that is ridiculously helpful. I think it's more helpful when you've got the players already in your team to help you make the decisions like I had. It's a lot harder to try and use this stuff to be bringing players in, because then you can kind of get a bit obsessed with it. You bring a player in and captain them, and then you've got to take him out. Like, Shaqiri's a good example, not to bring him. But yeah, I think when I'm trying to decide on which players to captain, to bench, and you've got similar looking games on paper, I think it's a really useful way to be able to kind of help you make decisions. So yeah, I'm not a convert because I was never not a convert, but it's I think these kind of features are really interesting. It's really nice to hear about where teams are vulnerable. So I'm looking forward to hearing who you've got lined up for this week.
Yeah, so I mean, I was gonna kind of pull out a bit more detail from the series that we did, and it's really frustrating because well, basically what I did was I went through every team, I analysed where they were at their weakest. I was just going through the members area, looking at the 4 sections under defending, and for chances conceded, and split them out into set pieces, left flank, through the middle, and right flank. Did that for every team, stacked them all up on top of each other based on who they were going to be playing in the next 6 game weeks, so that we could hopefully identify people who were going to have favourable matchups for a fair amount of time. And so the 4 names came out that had favourable matchups. They had 5 favourable matchups in the next 6 game weeks. Obviously, that includes game week 13. We did it last week, and that was it was Joe's favourite Icelandic man, or maybe no, second favourite actually. Thinking about it, but it was Johan Berg Gudmundsson was one of them. And this is where it's really frustrating because he had an excellent, amazing matchup against Newcastle where they're just rubbish from set pieces.
Don't rub it in.
If he's going to play,
rub it in.
I was ready.
Yeah,
I was
exactly,
ready. It was a double-digit haul. Denied to me.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And that's why he went in the scout picks, and I just thought, that's your little niche route in, and then he didn't even play. It's just so frustrating. Digne was another one. Obviously, he got 6 points against Cardiff. Cardiff, he was in there because Cardiff were weak from set pieces. Digne's been their main corner taker the last couple of game weeks. But he was close to 1 bonus point. He had one and then he lost it, I think, based off a few things he'd done wrong. But that just kind of shows that he was active and involved. I'm hoping to see a bit more from him as well. Annoyingly, here's another one, Holobas. He was all set to benefit from set pieces weaknesses this week. Didn't play. And then Willian, he was in there for Spurs. They're quite weak to set pieces as well, and he just Chelsea just didn't get going. So it's annoying because at the first hurdle, a few of these players didn't even play or had a particularly poor game. But I do want to focus a little bit on Gudmundsson because he's got a great matchup this week because he's actually got a double matchup. So Burnley are playing Crystal Palace, who are equally susceptible to set pieces and their own right flank. Well, obviously he's going to play because he's their left winger. So if he's fit, I mean, Joe, you've got to be happy to have someone like that who's going to hopefully have a field.
I got him in for 3 favourable fixtures, and he didn't do anything against Leicester. He should have got something against Newcastle if he'd have played. This is my last game of him. Really, I'm going to start thinking about moving him on afterwards, or maybe not. Maybe you convinced me to keep him, but he's also a player I am happy to keep as well because he is on those set pieces. He's sharing them with Defoe. I have to say that as well. He's not exclusively on them. So he's not like his Icelandic teammate Sigurdsson. But yeah, I'm very pleased, and I do want him to do well. So I'm going to be getting on a train up to Burnley, armed with a suitcase full of Lemsip or whatever it is is troubling him. I mean, if he's got one of those both ends viruses, then I'll probably stay clear, to be honest. But if it's if it's something I can solve with a suitcase full of Lemsip, then Gudmundsson, hopefully I can ease him onto the pitch there. But
maybe you should cook him breakfast.
I don't know. Well, I have to shove Ericsson out the door first and move Gudmundsson in. What a French farce that would be, an Icelandic farce. But yeah,
we should. Yeah, that's. Well, speaking of Iceland, I mean, there's Gylfi Sigurdsson is we've all kind of been talking about him, and I think it's worth talking about him in the context of versus Richarlison because. I mean, I was close to getting Sigurdsson instead of Richarlison, but I didn't because I felt, he's more highly owned, he's more explosive. But Sigurdsson just looks so reliable. And then again, when this sort of study threw up that in the next 6 game weeks, he's going to have 4 games where we've got teams that are susceptible to either set pieces or through the centre. And Richarlison doesn't have anything like that. I mean, obviously he's sort of playing up front, but he's still kind of drifting out to the left. But he's not involved in set pieces as much. And obviously a lot of people have looked at the price difference between Richarlison and Sigurdsson. I mean, Luke, do you think that if you've got 2 players where one guy, I mean, you'd like to play the fixtures as well. If you've got one guy who seems to be quite suited to the opposition of the other team, is it worth spending an extra 0.5? I mean, I guess it kind of maybe depends on what you're doing elsewhere.
I mean, I'm all for doubling up on fixtures. I like to go for broke, really. Doubling and tripling up on fixtures is generally what I like to do. So, yeah, certainly, and on those things kind of just, they're nice to know about. They're in the background, but I generally take the broad. I'm not so stats focused on the time. I just take the broader view of Sigurdsson's a great player and he's on most set pieces and he's got good games. So it goes pretty much as simple as that for me. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a parallel between Sané and Silva, if anything, really. Sigurdsson's kind of like the Silva, the consistent central player. who's doing well, and Sané's the more explosive sort of Richarlison style, who may just return you the ones or twos, etc. So it's a little bit parallel to that, I guess. But in that case, the prices are switched around. In this one, Sigurdsson. Oh no, I'm thinking of Sky there. Sorry, so Sigurdsson is actually cheaper than Richarlison. Is he? Or he's around the same price? I'm not sure.
Oh, he's 0.5 more than Richarlison in FPL.
So he's more. So yeah, it is switched around because obviously Silva's cheaper than Sané. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. The games are good. It's hard to double up sometimes on an attack that you don't fully trust. I think that's what's always in our mind. If you had to choose between the two, though, if it was a choice between Richarlison and Sigurdsson, who do you think you'd go for? Based on, that's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one. With hindsight, it's going to be Sigurdsson, isn't it? But, moving forward, Sigurdsson's going to consistently return the points. He's a great pick. I don't know. I think they're both great. I can't choose them apart. I've got Richarlison, so I'm not in a rush to fix it. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think maybe that kind of answers the question for a lot of people, because a lot of people do have him. I still think that there'll be I mean, obviously they got Liverpool this week, so I mean, it kind of, that's one you're not going to get an Everton player for that week. But then they got Newcastle and Watford at home, the 2 games after that, and they're both teams that are susceptible to set pieces and or through the middle. So I mean, it's gonna. I think anyone who doesn't have any Everton cover, I think they're probably going to be asking that question, aren't they, as to which one they might want to get, which is tricky. And we've had one question from Rekino, who says, is Felipe Anderson still worth looking at? And I think that he is, based off what just coming back into this little study. I'm a big fan of it, as you can probably tell. He's got 4 matchups in the next 6 game weeks where he's playing a team that's either susceptible to their right flank, obviously he plays on the left, or set pieces. So, and West Ham's fixtures are great anyway. So if you, I feel a little bit worried about Arnautovic, for example, because he seems to get injured every game. Anderson, possibly a good alternative there based off what we can see from a little bit of the data. So yeah, definitely worth keeping an eye on Felipe Anderson, I think.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I just want to go back to Sigurdsson again because I can't stop talking about him. But
you love him.
I think, I mean, I'm really, really impressed with him, and I think he's having one of his great seasons. And I'm actually thinking of getting rid of Salah for him, not this coming fixture, but to free up that money, to free up that, what is it, nearly 5.5 million? That's another player.
That's a hell of a switch.
That's like Sigurdsson giving birth to another Sigurdsson. This.
I mean, images in our heads now. You and Goodmanson in the bathroom, and now
Sigurdsson giving birth to himself, as Salah is ushered out of the back door.
Anyone who's just tuning in is just like sort of backing away like Homer Simpson.
What is this? But I think if I do get him in, I'll be wanting to get him in for game week 15, so it would be for a hit, because those Newcastle and Watford at home are great fixtures, but then game week 17, 18, it's City away and Tottenham at home. Now, Sigurdsson's more than capable of getting a return there, but he has a low point ceiling in those matches, whereas I think his point ceiling is much higher in those other matches. And then, so if I kind of don't get him for that Newcastle game, I'm going to leave it, and then I'm going to be back on courting Sigurdsson game week 19 because it's Burnley away, and having been owning Joe Hart for a few game weeks, Burnley are just unbelievable at conceding goals. It's just wow. I mean, yeah, they really don't like clean sheets. And Brighton away as well. Once again, he's more than capable of scoring against them. Leicester as well. So for those last 3, so yeah, I think Sigurdsson's worth a hit. And even for Salah, it may not be Salah I remove for him, but I think he's really good, and I think he offers something great. And over the last 4 game weeks as well, he's had a really good mixture of shots and creating chances, does well in the bonus as well. I think he's got everything, and I think it probably shows why I've been hesitant to get Richarlison in, because I think in the back of my mind I've always known it's Sigurdsson's the one I want, not Richarlison. But yeah, David, any other matchups coming up, do you think, or any other team weaknesses we ought to be aware of? This Arsenal left flank, for example, could benefit the likes of Son.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one to look at, definitely. Yeah, Arsenal just have been so poor down that left flank, and which is I mean no surprise, because I think it's one of those things that some people might have noticed it even without looking at the data, because they've had, I think, 4 different people have played left back for them this year. It just seems to be there's a bit of a war going on there, because they've got Monreal's been in and out, Maitland-Niles has been in and out. Kolasinac seems to have kind of got it held down now, but he's obviously had an injury at the start of the season, and tends to operate inside the opponent penalty box rather than left back. So yeah, I mean that could be a great one. I guess personally, I'll probably just come back to. I think what I did with this little study was I tried to use nailed on players as much as possible because if you're getting a guy in for a long term run based off the fixture, you kind of need him to be someone nailed on. So I actually didn't factor Son into the study, I'm afraid. But if you're looking for a nice little punt, then it could be worth thinking about. We did have one other question to come in as to whether or not there was a matchup around. People have wondered because Wolves seem to have kind of dipped off. People asking, "Oh, please tell me they've got a matchup that looks nice." Unfortunately, not. The next two games are against teams that are susceptible to set pieces. So I mean that's Cardiff and Chelsea. But Wolves haven't really been that great with set pieces this season. So I mean it's not really one that I would want to look at. But I do think we should just quickly talk about Wolves because a lot of people have been saying, well, I thought they were the real deal, and then they've lost 2-0 at home to Huddersfield. I mean, sort of where do we go from here? Especially people who doubled up like Patricio and Doherty. I've got those two. I mean, Az, what do you think? I mean, is their usefulness expired?
You've got to be worried when a team concedes 2 goals at home to Huddersfield. That's the way I look at it. I mean, they haven't had some good results lately, but they put up a good fight against Arsenal, and I mean Doherty's heat map and things were making me really confident that he was gonna carry on, getting advanced. I worried a bit with the injury to Johnny because they've had this really kind of settled team, and now he's having to kind of make changes because of like a long-term injury. I'm happy keeping Doherty because of what he offers attacking wise. I was close to kind of taking a hit to get in Jimenez, but didn't. I mean, he's still like. I mean, he nearly scored, didn't he? I think the ball was like 13 centimeters or something from crossing the line or something like that. Just something stupid like that. So I mean, like if he scores that goal and they only lose 2-1 and Jimenez has got some points, then you're not really worrying too much. But the fact he's now he's blanked in that game sort of does make you a bit aware. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they struggle against Cardiff, if they lose that Cardiff game as well, then it might be time to reevaluate some of their players. But there isn't really that. I mean, the only real players that people have got anyway are Doherty, Jimenez, and Patricio. So I mean, you've got a goalkeeper. It's not really a big one to worry about. Doherty ridiculously attacking, and then Jimenez is only 6 mil. So he's. I don't know. I think there's more points in the more expensive players, and I think if you've got Wolves players, you just kind of stick with them and hope they start delivering.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to keep them for. I'm going to start both of my defenders against Cardiff because I think you kind of have to. You have to maybe just give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, Joe, you were saying earlier on we were chatting that maybe people have realised that wait, they are actually a newly promoted team.
Yeah, I know.
That's part
I don't know what people are going on about. I mean, they are a newly promoted side. They're a good newly promoted side, and they bought well, and they were a good newly promoted side anyway. But that's what they are. They're not like people were getting really people were like thinking, bracketing them, saying, "Can't believe how cheap they are." They're basically like Man City or Chelsea. They're not at all. They are what they are. They're a bunch of cheap blokes who will get the odd return in favourable fixtures and will probably struggle in some fixtures, and I don't think can be relied on too much against bigger sides. They might, like Jimenez has had some returns against some tougher sides. So you're going to get the odd points like that, but that's what they are. They're really to rotate as well. So I've got Doherty. I'm not allowed to say Doherty. Dirty, and I'm really happy to have him. I got him for 4.5. He's gone up in price. I will looking at his fixtures. Cardiff away. Yeah, I'm going to play him then. Could get a clean sheet. Could get an attacking return. Then he's at home to Chelsea. Well, I won't be playing him then. So that's what he's there for. That's what he's a 4.5 defender. He isn't Trippier. He isn't Robertson. He is what he is. And Jimenez as well. He's a really good third striker enabler who's going to get the odd return. He's going to be great. He's got more chance of an odd return, although he actually appears to have more chance of a return against the tougher sides, which is great because it's a player you can rely on, maybe first on the bench or maybe just that you've got to play him as well. So Jimenez, I mean, I moved Danny Ings out without, who else is in that kind of bracket really? There's not a lot really, and I think he is what he is, and people have just realised that. I mean, it helps that few of us got Doherty in earlier, and so we had those good returns. So there's a lot of love in the bank there. So there's people who've got him after that, and it's almost like they're being cheated. They're like almost having a go at him or something. They're going to pop around his house or something. And what's he going to say? I am what I am. I mean, I can't do the Irish accent, but he's going to say, I am what I am. I'm a cheap defender in a newly promoted side. I'm not blooming Roberto Carlos. Yeah. Anyway, that's my Wolves rant.
Are you as equally cynical, Luke?
No, man, nothing much more to add. They're great value. Bad day at the office. They had 2 weeks off. Doherty didn't even train for 2 weeks because of the facial injury. Maybe he just wasn't quite at it. Maybe he's one of these players who needs to train every day. Bad day at the office. They're great value. And who apart from City, Liverpool, you could probably put Spurs there, not even Chelsea, and maybe Everton at the moment are consistently winning games every week. Everyone else is up and down every week.
Newcastle, 3 in a row.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot something. It's only fair. If I include Everton, I've got to include them. But apart from that, everyone, you can't tell what result they're going to get every week. That's why it's the Premier League. Man City and Liverpool are going to win virtually every week. Everyone else, you just throw up a coin and see what happens.
I think everyone just kind of assumed that they were going to get points with their Wolves plays in that game. The fact they were on the Sunday,
I was banking on it.
Yeah, everyone was.
We also have to
Save my game.
We also have to give Huddersfield some credit. They've been fantastic in recent years, and people just, turn a blind eye to it. They've really stepped it up. They had a shaky start. They've really stepped it up, and it looks like Fulham may be doing that as well. And it looks like virtually the only team at the moment that look like the whipping boys are Burnley. We had quite a few of them to begin with, and now it looks like probably only Burnley are the ones there. Arguably Southampton, but
exactly. Southampton as well. Yeah, any team managed by Mark Hughes, just
yeah. But yeah, it goes like this all the time in the league. They go through runs of form, they go back and forward. That's it.
Okay, well let's look ahead in detail to game week 14 and 15. So the game week's coming thick and fast, so we're going to have to cover 2 off here, and then we'll be preparing for game week 16 next Wednesday evening as the final matches of game week 15 are coming to a close. So traditionally, for those that have been following Scoutcast for a number of years, traditionally when we do a Scoutcast on a night when there are matches, we all do absolutely awfully and really depressing. Which is good. Viewers like that. People don't want to see us bragging about our excellent scores. They want us to be in tears.
Are we doing one this week then?
We're going to be doing one next week, but we'll be doing one. So we're not going to be doing one for game week 15. It's coming too fast. We just cannot keep up. A bit like our teams, we can't keep.
We have to squeeze it in on a Monday night, and
so we're gonna. Yeah, it just wouldn't work, and we can't be bothered. So we'll do. So we're going to cover up game week 15 here. So first of all, though, let's look at game week 14. Now, as this is over to you, really, because you've been monitoring the differentials and the clean sheet picks of ours and asking for our own.
Yeah, well, FPL Ferry has been diligently putting in our scores.
Ferry. Well done to him.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
He's our fairy godmother.
He is, really is. So clean sheets wise, myself, I went for United, and Joe went for Everton, and we both they both came in. Luke went for Brighton, didn't come in, and Neil, who we're gonna talk about in a second, didn't get it with Wolves. So it means that I'm still leading the way. I mean, I've got a 78% success rate with clean sheets this season, which, I mean, I don't know how that's happened. And Neil's at the bottom with 0, but Luke is at 75% wrong. So Luke's at the other end. In terms of differentials, myself and Joe both went for Everton defenders. I got 6 for Lucas Dean. Joe got 8 with Michael Keane, and you definitely would have gone for Dean if I hadn't picked him first. Yeah. So you got a bit lucky there. Luke went for Cavaliero, who was subbed at half time.
Yeah, he was rubbish, I think.
Yeah,
along with the whole of the Wolves team.
That sucks. But we have to give a shout out to Neil here. I mean, he went for, in his first appearance of the season, he went for Sané. 19 points. Imagine getting 19 points from your differential pick. I mean, that's crazy.
Newcastle went away Monday night at Burnley. I mean, he's having a hell of a week.
Yeah, it's insane. So we're all miles off Andy when he was doing these. He had a 60% correct pick with these. I'm leading this one as well with 33%. So it shows I wouldn't take our advice on these. But it's a bit different this week. We've got 2 picks. So I think we'll do clean sheets first, and if you give your clean sheet for 14 and 15. So David, you're first.
Yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna be really left field here, but I'm actually, to be fair, I'm gonna be like what Luke said we should do is give credit to a little team called Huddersfield Town. I kind of looked at game week 14, and I think also because of the order we picked them, I think I was kind of left with not many great options. I think I could have gone for Man City against Bournemouth, but I just really fancied Bournemouth to just knock in like a really pointless goal at the end of that. I feel like a lot of teams have done that at home against Man City. And Huddersfield, yeah, I've been really impressed with how they've got on in the last couple of weeks. When they've kind of come from they're one of these teams where I think it took them a little bit of a while to get used to just how horrible it is being a Premier League team. When you're David Wagner and you're kind of manager at Huddersfield, your job is safe. But the second you come up to the Premier League and you lose 4 in a row, and the journos just assumed that, well, you must be about to be fired. And they were playing terribly at the start of the season, and he's just kind of stuck to his guns. And they were never really poor defensively, and they've slowly over the last couple of game weeks kind of tightened up in terms of shots allowed. And basically, I don't really fancy Brighton away from home. I think Brighton are one of these teams that just can't turn it on away. And it is a little bit left field, but I just think, some people have been looking at Schindler actually as a potential investment. So I'm going to reflect that by picking him as my first clean sheet. My second one, I'm picking Spurs, if that's all right, because I just want to double check no one else has picked them for game week 15. Sounds like no one has. I probably would have been shouted at by now if they had. Just because they're playing Southampton, and I think Southampton are rubbish. That's about as simple as it gets.
Well, you're giving yourself first pick on both, which has kind of ruined the order a bit, but it's a complicated system, so
yeah, exactly.
we'll allow for this one. Luke, you go next.
Yeah, I've got to try and bring that ratio up, haven't I? So I've just gone City in both games, the best defence in the league. I've been for them, I think 3 out. I've only had, to be fair to me, I think I've only had about 4 picks. So my percentage is going to be worse if I do get it wrong, that small data summary. But City and Edison in particular have been to blame for me not getting them. So I'm just going to back them to best defence and just hope that they get them, because none of you guys went for them. So yeah, City and City. 2 clean sheets, easy. Next.
Fair enough. Joe?
Well, I'm going to go for Liverpool. And I know it's a derby, so anything can happen. But I think that what will happen is that Liverpool won't concede, because that's what they've been doing most of this season, really. In fact, they've only conceded 1 goal at home, and they've conceded the lowest number of shots at home, 35. Everton, I think, are capable of scoring. I think Sigurdsson's capable of nicking a goal in this one, so there is a slight risk there. But I think you got to get that. You got to back Liverpool's amazing home defence, really. And my clean sheet for game week 15, I'm going to go with my side, Brighton. I just feel that their home record is good enough. And I think it's Palace, and I think that could be quite a tight game. Palace really have not impressed me at all going forward. I think they've got the potential for some clean sheets here. I'm a very optimistic Hennessy and Wan-Bissaka owner, but if I had Zaha or one of their midfielders, I really wouldn't be that optimistic as well. I think it'll be tight, 1-0 tops to one of the sides, maybe a 0-0 even. So yeah, that's my clean sheets.
We don't do that great against Palace though, do we? I think we've lost.
That's why I just think it will be incredibly tight. I just don't think either side are in amazing attacking form, and it if I was to pick a 0-0 coming up soon, that would probably be my one.
Yeah, I think I'd take that as a Brighton fan at the moment. We don't do that well against Palace. We don't want to lose that game. So I'm going for Palace against Burnley this week, just because Palace, for all the reasons you just said, basically Palace are pretty decent defensively, and Burnley are all over the place. I think Burnley have been scoring, but I think Palace at home is a decent bet for a clean sheet. I'm actually really looking forward to playing Wan-Bissaka over the next few weeks.
Finally,
yeah, because I mean the United game was just a reminder of what he can do when he's on your bench, because he's always getting hauls on my bench. So it'd be nice to give him a bit of a run out.
Martial as well. Do you see that?
Yeah,
just left him for dead.
Yeah, don't remind me. Bench player rinsing your United, great. And then for game week 15, I'm going for West Ham at home to Cardiff. I just think that the clean sheets have got to come for West Ham at some point. They've got such a good run of games. I'm really hoping that Fabianski can deliver in terms of saves and clean sheets. And Cardiff aren't setting the world alight up front, so I think West Ham's pretty a decent bet for that. So differential wise, I mean the order's all messed up anyway, so I might as well I'll just go. This week I'm going to go for it's hard keeping track of who's got who now with 2 weeks. But I'm going to go for Patterson, who's not playing West Ham. He's playing Wolves, who we've talked about, and Patterson's ownership is still really low. And I've got Brooks, who's kind of the same price as Patterson. But I think if you're looking to strengthen your bench and have a player who might come on over Christmas, I think one of Brooks or Patterson looks a really, really good pick. Probably not both of them. It's probably, putting a little bit, not enough funds in midfield. But I think one of those two will do really well over this period. So I'm backing him to carry on the misery against Wolves at the moment. And then my second pick is Brooks. So my other 5.1 midfielder. He's still got under 5% ownership. I think he's still really good value, and he's playing Huddersfield at home in 15. So I'm going to be playing him that week. His fixtures are just such a mixed bunch, but the Huddersfield game looks good for him. So he'll be my team, in my actual team, and he'll be my pick for the differentials. Let's go to you next, Luke.
Yeah, better do good in these, eh? I'm going for Giroud from Chelsea. Obviously lowly owned because he's barely played, and that's the worry with this one. He may not play again. I'd love to be able to pick this after the Europa League lineup, but I just think Morata was that bad against Spurs yet again that Giroud surely got to get a go, and brings the best out of Hazard as well. So I really want to see him in that lineup against Fulham. I really do. So yeah, I guess it depends on his midweek minutes. But if he does start at home, Giroud, I think we could get a goal out of him. Obviously, he's scored last week, so he might go on a little run. Giroud has been prone to these in the past, not scoring for ages and then going on runs of goals. So yeah, that's my pick for the first week. And the second week, I'm going to Josh King, Bournemouth at home to Huddersfield. I know we've just been beating up Huddersfield, and Bournemouth are generally better on the counter, to be honest. So might not look that great on paper, but I just really like Josh King as a pick. I just think that he's a great player. He's been great for a while. He's been a little bit unlucky with injuries recently. He's obviously on penalties as well. And I actually do prefer him overall to Callum Wilson, really, as a result of that. So yeah, he's lowly owned. I'll go for him.
Nice. Let's go you next, Joe.
Yeah, well, I've got I'm going for a completely Spurs theme. So for the first for game week 14, I think in the North London derby, I think that Son has done enough to start that. And going back to the theme there, so it's really a Scoutcast themed pick, really, because obviously we talked about Spurs in a lot of detail, and of course David mentioned about teams being frail, and I brought it up as well, and of course you benefited from it last week, as Arsenal are quite vulnerable down the left, and Son plays on the right. He kind of floats around a bit, but largely he's coming in off the right, and I just think he's ready to get a return there. So looking at game week 15, I'm sticking with Eriksen for this one. This is the very favourable home tie that they have against Southampton. It all depends whether Trippier's back as well. So there's an unknown there, but I'm gonna assume he perhaps isn't, or maybe doesn't get significant minutes, which will free Eriksen up to take those dead ball duties, those corners, and Southampton alongside Burnley are definitely the whipping boys currently. So I think very Spurs themed differentials for me.
Yes, mate. I mean, Eriksen at 4% ownership. He could be a really strong option for people over because I don't think I'll be going there, but we talked about it earlier. But yeah, I think he could be a good pick for some people. David, you're last.
Yeah, I'm gonna go real next level on this one and go to a completely different plane. And I'm picking Steve Mounier. I've gone all Huddersfield for this Brighton game, and there's 3 reasons why. Number 1, in away matches this season, only one team has conceded more headed attempts than Brighton, and that's obviously Burnley because they're just rubbish. So 24 goal attempts conceded via opponent foreheads this season for Brighton. Then Mounier, in home matches this season, only one player has registered more headed attempts, and that's Mitrovic. So he's had 10 this season in 7 home games. And in the last 4 game weeks, he's had 6 shots on target. So he's actually accurate now, because originally he just wasn't very particularly accurate. And when you compare that for the rest of the league, basically only Martial, Salah, Morata and Kane have had more shots on target than Mounier. So I feel like, I'm never going to sign the guy. I mean, he's 0.2%, but if you ever want in a 1 week punt, I think Steve Mounier at home against Brighton, I think he's going to bag a goal. So very detailed reasoning there, but I think it's going to pay off. Yeah.
Some may say too detailed about a Huddersfield striker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Daily fantasies, get Steve Mounier. My other one is just... Oh no, you go ahead, Joe.
No, I was going to say, I think that's a really good pick. I think you pinpointed that, watching Brighton play, particularly away. And Mounier is... Huddersfield are the team where if you want to get some bargain basement enablers, that's where they are, particularly.
Yeah, I mean he's 5.8, so I mean,
yeah, he's competing with Jimenez really. So yeah, possibility.
he's had more shots on target last 4 than Jimenez.
So yeah, sorry, your game week 15 differential.
Yeah, so I'm the same as you, Joe. I think Spurs are going to absolutely destroy Southampton, and it seems how you picked Eriksen. I've gone for Dele Alli. This has got to be the first time in absolutely ages that both of them are under 5% because they get something like 2.8 or something.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just mad. I mean, we know why, because they've been out for so long, and then it took them a while to get back in when they're back to full fitness. But there's a real opportunity for anyone who doesn't want Kane, Ali or Eriksen. You know, they could be amazing differentials. I mean, I think Kane's effective ownership in the top 10k is quite low. So then you've got to assume that Ali and Eriksen's are even lower. So, you know, I think there's great opportunity there, those two players. So I've gone for Ali, as Joe'd already got Eriksen.
Okay, is that's all done? We're all done for diffs.
That's all done.
All done for
Yeah, I think we've got through it all.
Well, let's look at. There's a lot to get through there. Well, let's look ahead to our game week 14 plans, transfers, captaincies, but also with an eye on game week 15 as well. So I don't know if we're able to do that kind of think what our kind of long term plan is. And I suspect Spurs may figure there. So we'll go with Luke first, and I'll put your team up on the screen there so people see where you're at the moment.
Okay, I can't see that, Joe. Does it show? I guess it only shows my team from last week.
It shows your team from last week, so I don't know if you've already made any changes.
No, I haven't made any, but I probably should have. I don't know. Sané's really turning my head, but I've been he rose by 0.1. I could have done Martial to Sané and Aguero to Kane and moved early and done it because of the exact money. Risky moving Aguero out at home to Bournemouth, but with the fact that Jesus,
how could you afford that?
So I've got loads of money in the bank.
No Salah.
Like 5 million in the bank.
I'm only 0.1 off of it now. So
Jesus, Luke.
yeah.
No, you said Aguero, not Jesus.
Yeah, so no, I would move Aguero to
So bad.
It's all right. But the news about Jesus getting injured worries me because if he's back and he's fully fit, does Aguero get rested at home to Bournemouth? He's just played 90 minutes in the midweek.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because if Jesus is properly injured, then Aguero plays both, right?
Exactly. So we kind of need to know because that could be a big time to move for Kane 1 week early potentially because we've already said he likes to score against Arsenal and they look really good. So yeah, I could do that. I could do Martial to Sané and Aguero to Kane. I could have, but I was 0.1 out. Plus, I didn't really want to move Martial after one game, even though it probably is the right move.
No, it's the same as me. Yeah,
move him out after one game. I just can't bring myself to do it. So the original plan was simply to swap Kamara to Jimenez, which I can do as well. So go from a non-player to a bench player and literally have just a full squad of 15 people that could likely play. And I was going to play Wan-Bissaka this week. I was going to play 5 at the back. I was going to play Wan-Bissaka, Luiz, Doherty, Robertson, Stones, all at the back. And have on the bench Richarlison, Fraser and Jimenez potentially. So I don't really know what I'm going to do. But the next week, Kane will be coming in either this week or next, pretty much, is a guarantee. Aside from that, I'm not so sure. Because I also do really like Son. So there's a chance I'll just move Martial to Son.
Who are you looking to captain game week 14?
Well, at the moment, it's probably going to be Sterling because I should have done it every week and I haven't been captaining him. But again, he played 90 minutes, so it worries me whether he'll start. So I don't know. A lot of it depends on Hazard. If Hazard is fit or not, it changes everything. So if he's fit, I may consider him for the captain. If he's not fit, I may consider him out for Sané. So I don't really know until we've got the
really helpful, Luke. Really,
we just don't have enough information, though. Do you not agree? Do we?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think we need more on the Man City situation, and to be fair, because you've got to make a decision on Kane and Aguero. That if you're getting Kane in, I mean, does he come part of your captaincy conversation? Because if you're making that move early.
No, I don't think I'd captain him against Arsenal because I've got Hazard and Sterling with such great games.
That's true. Yeah.
So
Friday deadline this week as well. So
I think we have to. We have to prepare ourselves. There's no way all of the Man City players we've mentioned are going to start. They've started the Champions League game. There's no way they're all going to start the next 3 as well. We could get lucky. One of them might start all of them, but and it's going to be frustrating because one or all of us are going to get the likes of Sané, Sterling in, and that's going to be the week where they don't play or they get 10 minutes at the end and don't get anything, and it's going to be frustrating.
Yeah. But the Bernardo Silva thing is important as well because if he's back, Gundogan's out at the moment. That's why he didn't play tonight, I assume, and Mahrez kind of filled in for that. But then if Bernardo Silva's back, then
He's not far off. So
he may come into that slot. It's just a guessing game. And at the moment, Sané to me looks the most likely to play because of what we've already said on the left side. He also came off early. So that's why I'm looking at trying to squeeze him in one way or another. That's all I can really give you at the moment because I ain't got enough information.
Okay, Az, what's your plans and transfers, captaincy game week 14, also looking ahead to game week 15?
Well, there is absolutely no way that I will go into game week 14 without Sterling. So he is coming in. Even I don't care he's played 90 minutes. I don't care that he might be benched. I'm past the point of caring. I've missed out on 2 massive hauls from him after I sold him instead of Hazard. It's been an absolutely huge error, and I just don't care. I'm getting him in. I'm keeping him for the season as long as he's not injured. That's it. That's that spot sorted. So the decision is, who do I get rid of out of Salah and Hazard? I really, 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 really want to sell Hazard. I can't stand him. He's got that home fixture against Fulham, which could really hurt. But if there's any indication he hasn't shaken off this knock, then he's out. Because if you've got a player who's carrying a knock as well with these 3 games coming up in quick succession, then Sarri's already benched him, and when he's benched him, they've won. I think they've won 3 or 4-0 against some teams without him, so they can really cope without him. And I don't think he's quite right. There's something not quite right with him, whether it's him looking for a move or whether it's him with loads of injuries. So all the signs point to me selling Hazard. The good thing about selling Salah, though, is it would give me enough money to do Aguero to Kane next week for free. If I sell Hazard for Sterling, then I've got to take a hit next week because Kane's definitely coming in next week. But it's all part of this kind of elaborate. I'm shaking up my team. I'm getting rid of these 3 over the next few weeks. I'm getting rid of Hazard, Salah, and Aguero. And I'll be bringing in Sterling,
Kane,
who's the other? Kane, and probably Aubameyang. I'm looking at as well as a kind of mega differential, which no one seems to have, but just keep scoring goals. So it's going to be a formation change. It's going to be the big hitters all switching out, and hopefully it can kick-start my season a bit. So that's my plan. Captain this week, Sterling.
Okay.
If he doesn't play, Brooks will come in.
who's your vice then?
Vice
That's the key one.
would be whoever I kept out of Hazard and
Right.
Salah.
I think I captained Sterling a couple of times last season and was very fortuitous and noted something that he rarely comes on in a game. He either starts or that's the end of it. And it's nerve-wracking if you've got a good vice captain.
Well, they're not going to be losing, are they?
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. They're never in a position where they're losing, so they'll never need him. And so if he's rested this weekend, then he's going to get near 90 minutes midweek. And of course, I think when Mark got Sterling in, I think he got him in, and he was benched immediately, and we were here joyfully mocking his awful score that week, and then he subsequently went on to get like hundreds and hundreds of points ever since, largely on the back of Sterling. So you just got to.
I sold him after that benching.
Yeah, you just got to take the Sterling benching, like a man. So David, what's your transfer plans, captaincy for game week 14, and also looking ahead to game week 15?
Well, the easiest decision is captain, and that for me is Aguero. For all the reasons we kind of already talked about. Yes, he's really not doing it away from home this season, but at home he's just the king. He's absolute king of home football. So easy one. What I do transfer-wise is the tricky one. I know what my game week 15 transfer is going to be, and that is probably, depending on injury or whatever else happens, is going to be Aguero to Kane, as I think a lot of people are already thinking about. What I haven't decided is how I get to that point, because I have 0.8 in the bank, which is a nice amount, but I'm still 0.3 short of Kane. But I think because he's 12.3 right now, but I think he'll be 12.4 by the time I'm trying to sign him, because I would expect him to score against Arsenal and then his price go up. So I am going to have to look for a cash cow of some kind. I'm not really sure who it's going to be, because I want to hold Hazard for this week. I could move him on. I mean, I could for game week 15 maybe get Hazard to Sané and then Aguero to Kane. I quite like the sound of that, because I do want to hold on to Salah. I like his fixtures, and while he's not sort of blowing teams away, Liverpool aren't blowing teams away, he seems to be very reliable, at least at home, and then certainly more reliable away from home than a lot of other people in the league. So I mean, some of the things we were talking about on Breakfast Club at the weekend is that going into game week 13, he was second in the whole league for shots away, shots in the box away, and still relatively in that kind of bracket for shots on target. So he's not. I mean, in a way, he's 13 million. So is he worth it because he's not explosive? Possibly not. But I just like that he's reliable, and I'm not seeing my team restricted in terms of what I can do elsewhere, because I think Hazard on the chopping block gives me enough money to do what I want. But the problem is I would love to make no transfers this week, to just get 2 free transfers booked in so I can do that move without a hit in game week 15. But at the moment I've got Richarlison starting, and I don't like that because I do think Liverpool will win it comfortably, and he's really there just to hedge my bets. And we've talked about that before. We don't really like doing that. I've got Fraser on my bench as well, which again I still feel kind of uncomfortable with because he's an attacking player. So yeah, I'm not massively happy. I'm going to start Wan-Bissaka finally as well. I think most of us are going to be doing that. Alonso is someone I could maybe move on. Just going back to who I could maybe get some money out of. But yeah, I look at my team for next week and I'm just really not happy. But I think it might just be a better decision just to hold it, get 2 free transfers in the bank just so that I can get Kane and probably Man City midfield without a hit. I think that's probably a better long-term thing for me.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I've got very similar thoughts as well. I mean, like you, Aguero for me will be the captain. He's just never let me down at home. I just think coming off of a bad game week, I want reliability. I just got to hope he starts. If Jesus is coming back fit, then I might have to reconsider that. So it's all going to be about those press conferences. So Neil and myself will be doing a video on Friday, and hopefully we'll get some more information out there. I could, if Hazard's fit, obviously I'm not going to take him out before Fulham. I'm not quite at the stage where I'm going to captain him though. So I will happily keep him, and I'll probably make no moves because I've got Wan-Bissaka, I've got Hennessy, good fixtures there. Obviously I'll be benching Dean. I think I'm happy to play my Wolves guys. I'll probably bench Fraser as well, be my first sub, so it's quite a good first sub to have. I'm pretty happy with the side. If Hazard's out, then for me that's an easy move. That's Hazard to Sterling. I can make that move. I've got 1.5 in the bank, so that's just a very, very simple, easy move. But if Hazard's fit, there's no way I'm dropping him before Fulham. Moving on to game week 15, Kane in for Aguero. If I make no moves, I can do that. I've got money in the bank to do that. And I would then, Hazard then doesn't have such a great fixture, doesn't have... I think his fixtures turned back again about game week 17, but we've seen it's just not a player I particularly want anymore, and I will move him on. Sterling, if I've got the money, possibly Sané, possibly Sigurdsson. I looked at it kind of players I want, players I might ditch. So I want Kane, I want Sigurdsson, I want one of Sterling or Sané, hopefully Sterling. Players I might ditch, Hazard, Aguero, I'm resigned to losing both of those. Goodmanson there, I probably will happily lose him as well. And then there's Salah. So I don't know, I'm still undecided with Salah, but I think he could move. And when Az mentioned the Arsenal, Aubameyang and Lacazette's another player I've got my eye on. Through that great run they had, they were getting those points. And people weren't getting Arsenal strikers, and people who did get Arsenal strikers were really reaping the benefits because there was amazing differentials there. And if moving Salah out gives me, instead of Salah and a rubbish striker or Goodmanson, it suddenly gives me Sigurdsson and an Arsenal striker plus Sterling plus Kane, then suddenly I've got a team that I think can challenge those in the top 10k. So yeah, these are just thoughts going around really, but Aguero first off, definitely want Kane. Thanks everyone. It's been a really it's been a packed Scoutcast. We've had to look at game week 15 as well. We've covered all sorts really, and I think we're all very keen on Kane. We're all keen on those Man City mids, and I think somehow we're going to get them in. But for now, it's a good night for me.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night all.